Oh, there's some chickens right there. Oh, they're fighting. I better get away from that. The difference between living and visiting the Philippines. I had this question asked by me by a friend of mine, and he said, what's the difference between those two when you visit and you live? So I did some research, and I thought it was a good video topic to talk about as well too. And the first one is cultural immersion. There's a brief introduction to local customs. You do have some customs and traditions that you're shown, but you're not really into it as much. You're just enjoying the beauty of the Philippines. But if you're living, there's a deep understanding and a daily integration of the Filipino culture, if that makes sense. So that's one good one. And the next one is cost of living. If you're visiting, you're budgeting for a short-term stay. And typically, it's a little bit more expensive if you're on a short-term stay. But if you're living and you're managing long-term expenses, you know where your money's going, like rent, utilities, groceries, and etc. The next one is the pace of life. Now, when you're visiting, it is you're trying to see as much as possible. And I apologize, I'm reading off of my notes. So you're trying to, oh, there's some chickens right there. Oh, they're fighting. I better get away from that. Basically, man, those little chickens are getting into it. If you see right there, I don't know if y'all see that or not. There you go. Whew. They are not happy at all. Let's get back into it. So, living for the pace of life, basically you're adapting to the local customs or local rhythm. Actually understanding the local pace as far as the Philippine pace. And that comes with being patient and etc. That's important too as well. And I apologize for that little mishap. But and there's also too social connections. When you're visiting, you're making temporary friends. Basically, when you're visiting, you're making temporary friends like other travelers do. You meet other travelers. You really don't get involved in the community as much as you do. Now, if you're living, you're building, like I said, lasting relationships with friends and expats as well too. Now, you might meet some expats on your visit and become friendships, but I think it's more of a connection once you basically move here and live here. Then there's the adaptation to local norms. Basically, when you're visiting, you're observing customs and norms as a guest. Now, when you're living, you're fully integrating and practicing local customs and traditions. Now, we talked about that briefly, but when you're living here, you're practicing blessing, you're practicing, you know, particular customs and traditions more than you would do if you was visiting. Health and safety, that's a big one. When you're visiting, you have short-term travel insurance, and you have basic awareness of safety. When you're living, you have long-term healthcare solutions, like you have understanding of the local healthcare system that's near to you. The next one is language and communication. Now, that's the one I'm working on, is language, understanding the Tagalog language. When you're visiting, you understand or you use basic phrases, and you're in basically tourist areas that are pretty much predominantly English, in the Philippines that is. Now, when you're living, basically you're learning and using Filipino languages as much as possible for basically daily interactions. If you're studying any language when you're moving to a different country, you want to, my opinion is, you want to learn the language as best you can and use the language and practice it with the local and with your local community, with your neighbors, with your friends who are Filipino or Filipinas, whatever you want to do, or however you want to learn it, or you want to practice it as much as possible. But that's my opinion. Okay. Then there's housing, accommodation. And when you're visiting, you stay in hotels, Airbnbs, resorts, basically short-term rentals. When you're living, you're finding long-term housing like condos, apartments, or even houses as well too. But I won't get into it too much, but there's particular things you cannot do as a foreigner unless you get married. But even then, it's not totally in your name. And then there's transportation. When you're visiting, you use taxis, ride shares like Grab, or even guided tours if you want to even do that. I don't think there's many guided tours in Angeles City, or in the Philippines, but there is some, like when you do island hopping and stuff like that. But when you're living here, you also could use ride shares and Grabs, but you also could use the public transportation if you want, like the buses. You can use the trikes. You can use jeepneys if you want to do that, or you can just when you're living here, you buy your own bike, or you could buy your own car or vehicle. Then there's daily life and routine. When you're visiting, you have a vacation mindset, a fun mindset, if that makes sense. Especially if you're a single guy, or maybe even you're not a single guy. You're here to have fun. It's a little bit more relaxing. I had a friend who visited here, and he was, when we hang out, he would say, "Hey, I don't care about money. I'm here on vacation. Worry about money when I live here." Then when you're living here, you have routines, established routines, working, and even daily chores. Like for me, working wise, I have of course I have a job, and I have that routine where I work, and then I do stuff like this, YouTube videos. So I'll pretty much work American hours. So my hours are from, at night, same time like anybody else in America right now. But yeah, so I work those hours. But basically, yeah, that's the pretty much all the differences between the living and visiting. Let me know in the comments, what do you think the differences is between living and visiting, or visiting and living, or however you want to say it? What do you think the differences are in between the two? And also too, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell notification. All right, thank you guys, have a great day.